Hey guys, it's Alex here. Now last week, Inappropriate Reefer made a really good video starting a conversation about the state of the hobby. In that video he was talking about the price of equipment and kind of the role YouTubers play in that we end up really getting given more expensive equipment and only presenting that side of things rather than looking at the budget side. Then Telegram made a video addressing issues around price of equipment in the hobby, but also talking a little bit about the state of the BRS situation, which I think it's fair to say there's been a reasonable amount of discussion around in the hobby. So today I'm going to give you my thoughts on the situation, addressing mainly the price of the equipment in the hobby and the role YouTubers play, and I'll also address the BRS situation at the end, which is probably where a lot of the drama lies. So first up then, what about the price of equipment? Well, this is an expensive hobby as a general rule. It doesn't have to be, and there are ways of doing it cheaply, but the issue Moki raises is a valid point in that a lot of the equipment is quite expensive, and when you go on YouTube to see what's what, the chances are you're going to be seeing expensive equipment. Now there are a couple of reasons for that, and there are reasons that I don't think YouTube is necessarily the best place to go if you're looking at more budget end of equipment, and I don't think that that's going to change too much, although there are things that we YouTubers can do to help the conversation. Now, as Moki said, most people go on YouTube to kind of see the inspirational stuff, the absolute best of the best, rather than kind of the more budget end, really simple stuff. And YouTube kind of perpetuates that because it encourages you to make videos that lots of people are going to watch. And if you make videos that lots of people don't watch and you only get a few views, it then punishes you effectively and shows your other videos to fewer people. So if you keep doing that, your channel's not going to go anywhere. So it kind of encourages you to make videos that people will want to watch. Now in my experience, actually product reviews don't generally do that well anyway. So if a YouTuber is approached with a piece of equipment, you've got to factor in probably that it's not going to do your channel any favors because you're not going to get massive views of it. But if you're given a cheap piece of equipment that no one really knows about, it's going to be even worse. Now we're all hobbyists at the end of the day, us YouTubers. So if you're offered two pieces of equipment from two manufacturers, one is an AliExpress 50 quid light and the other is a Radeon Ecotech XR30 that's worth 750 quid, you're going to choose the latter because it's the sexier piece of equipment and it's what you want, and more people are likely to watch it. Now in my personal experience, I find that you don't get many of the smaller companies AliExpress stuff sending out free equipment. More of the bigger companies like Ecotech and that type, they are a bit more savvy with marketing and they're a bit more switched on. So there's a lot less supply in terms of equipment going out to reefing YouTubers from the lower end. And there are fewer YouTubers who actually make that kind of content. There are some YouTubers like Telegram who pretty much most of the content he puts out is all about the budget end of the hobby and telling you what you do and don't get for your money, the good side and the bad side. And also Devon from Reef does a lot of DIY stuff. He made not that long ago a DIY calc stirrer for something like $50 when one of those that you would buy from a shop would probably set you back $500. So there are channels that do that, but it's a bit of a niche within what is already quite a small niche in terms of the saltwater aquarium hobby. So I don't think you're likely to get too many other channels that cater to that end of the hobby. The other thing is that people who start up YouTube channels are often gearheads. I'm a bit of a gear junkie. I love a bit of tech. And if I'm presenting a piece of equipment and if I'm putting it on my tank that is my pride and joy at the end of the day, I want it to be something that I like. And if I were to put up a 50 quid LED light, to be honest with you, it wouldn't be an authentic review because it's not something that I'm into, it's not my passion, so I'm not going to have any energy behind it. Now there are some people out there who do love that end of things and would be able to make content that comes across as authentic and genuine and is right up their street, but they're pretty few and far between, and there aren't any real ones apart from Telegram perhaps on YouTube that I think make videos like that. So what can YouTubers do about it? Well, I think there is probably a gap in the market for someone like that who would cover the budget end of stuff. And if you set up a channel called The Budget Reefer, I'm sure there would be people who would watch it. But it would have to be someone who is passionate about that and does that sort of thing. On my tank, I don't tend to put price as the most important thing. Of course I have a budget and I'm not going to blow thousands of pounds on all sorts of things, but that's not the most important consideration. For an example, I have kind of MP40 power heads and I have some other expensive equipment. But it's easy for me to be passionate about those sorts of products and make a good video because I really like the stuff. Whereas if you're giving me a load of stuff that's cheap and that I don't want, they're not going to be entertaining videos, I'm probably not going to give it my all, and it's just not going to be right. So there is a market for that sort of thing, but I think most YouTubers won't go for that. And most YouTubers will naturally end up spending more money themselves and taking more free equipment that's from the bigger companies. But I do think there are things YouTubers can do about it. Now, Inappropriate Reefer was talking about setting up maybe a budget tank and doing that and showing you the progress, showing you the really cheap equipment that he gets and showing you how it runs. Now, if he does that, hats off to him, because setting up another tank on top of his existing tanks is going to be a lot of work. There's also going to be some personal expense in there, so if he does it, fair play to you. But the reason most of us YouTubers probably won't do that is because it already takes quite a lot of time, as you can imagine, to make these YouTube videos. So the thought of running another tank on top of what we already have is probably not that appetizing. Now, it might be different if there were full-time YouTubers. If I was a full-time YouTuber and this was my job, I would have a lot more time to put into doing those sorts of projects, probably a bit more money as well. So I'd certainly think about doing that. But I'm not going to do it because I don't think I'd have the time. And again, I don't think I'll be passionate about it. But there are things that every single YouTuber can do. For a start, we all need to be open about when we're given products for free or when we're paid to make a video. Now, that's actually not quite as easy as it sounds. Bear with me and I'll explain why. So on my channel, I haven't actually been given that much free equipment. I've been given a fair few things, perhaps half a dozen things from a company called Reef that's a new company over here in Europe and has just expanded out to Australia and I think will be coming to America soon. I really like their equipment, so I feel good presenting it and I'm happy to do that. And I'm also happy to put it on my own tank, which as I say is my pride and joy. And whenever I review a product that I've been given by Reef, the first thing I will tell you is, hey, guess what? I've been given this for free. So thanks to Reef, shout out to them. Now that's one way of doing it. I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, but it's the way that I feel is most transparent and it's the way I feel most comfortable with. The reason that it's more complicated though is because what happens after I've made that video, when I'm talking, maybe I do 2 or 3 tank updates a year. If I then refer to a piece of equipment that I've been given for free, do I remind you that it's been given for free or do I not mention it? Now, if I don't mention it, you might think, actually, people who haven't seen the first video I did, the review, they're not told, so am I being open? But at the same time, personally, if I'm watching a video, I don't want to be told every 2 seconds, I was given this for free, this company sent it to me to test, all those sorts of things. It interrupts the flow of the video. So the way I do it isn't necessarily the ideal way, but it's the way I choose to do it. There are other ways of doing it as well. So some channels like Reef Dudes, for example, he has a little banner at the start that says, Reef Dudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply. So then you know he's got sponsors and he tells you that in every single video. But there are downsides to that as well. If he's being sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and he's making a video on CO2 media, does that mean Bulk Reef Supply have told him to make one because they want to sell more? Probably not, that's not Devon's style, but you get the point. It doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what the situation is, whereas my way does tell you exactly what I've been given, but then in future videos it doesn't. There's also a button you can select in YouTube that will overlay a little bit of title at the start of the video to say, this video includes a paid promotion. Now I don't like to do that because I think that is a bit too vague. And if I just put a video up with, this includes a paid promotion, what does that mean? I personally, if I'm watching that, I'm thinking, does it mean he's been given the equipment for free? Does it mean he's been paid? And if you're talking about more than one piece of equipment, well, which bit was you given for free? Was it all of them or was it just one piece? So I personally don't like that. I think that would apply if you're being paid and you want to keep it generic, but either way, it's not perfect. And the point I'm making is that none of the ways of doing this are actually perfect and there are flaws to everything. Ultimately, as a creator, you want to make sure you're striking a balance. Most of us want to be open and honest with you and tell you when we're being given stuff for free, but we also don't want to interrupt the flow of our videos. They're entertainment as much as they are information, and if you're getting told every 5 seconds, I got this for free, I got this for free, it interrupts the flow and it's also quite annoying. So there is no ideal way of doing it, but YouTubers do need to be open and honest and upfront when we're given free equipment so you can know if there's any hint of bias behind the reviews. But that's the fundamentals. The other thing that I think we can do, and I'd love to see this more, and I've talked about this a little bit on my channel in the past, but I can certainly do so more as well, is talk about the difference between cheap equipment and expensive equipment. Now, more often than not, in my opinion, expensive equipment does give more benefits for you, the hobbyist, than it does necessarily for your corals. For example, a prime example of this is a return pump. So if you were to buy a Vectra L1 return pump, in the UK, I think they're about £350. They're very quiet, they're really solidly, nicely built, they look good in your sump, which is important to a lot of people. They move a ton of water, they've got a sexy little app that you can just press a button and turn it on and off. You can turn it up and down, all those sorts of things. It's also got a control box, all sorts of things that are really useful for you. But actually for your tank, it's just pushing water 24/7. So it doesn't do much different to a Jecod return pump that might cost £100. In fact, I've recently switched to 2 Jecod return pumps because I think they do a better job, or at least as good a job, as my old Vectra return pump. But the things you get from a more expensive piece of equipment benefit you, the hobbyist, more than they do your corals. So I'd like to see YouTubers talk about that a little bit more, and I can absolutely do that myself too. The thing with YouTube is that when you see something, a nice shiny bit of equipment on a video, it makes you want it. I am as guilty of as anybody else for that. I'll watch a video, see something cool, and something goes in my head that makes me think, God, I've got to have that. So I think it would be great if YouTubers could talk a little bit more about the benefits of getting the piece of equipment that they're showing you, because ultimately that's why you're clicking on the video. You want to know about that piece of equipment, so that's really important. But I'd also tell you whether you actually need it and what it gives you over and above a cheaper piece of equipment. Now, while I do think YouTubers can do more, I want to say that I personally consider influencers and YouTubers to be really important to the hobby. We don't have a massive mainstream media. In the UK, there's one magazine that publishes, I think, 4 times a year. It's once a quarter. It's called Ultramarine. It's a really good read. Have a look and check it out if you've not heard of it. But there isn't a lot of mainstream media, and if you look up a piece of equipment online, you're probably not going to find that much in reviews. You're not going to find hundreds of Amazon reviews. You're not going to find newspaper articles, online articles, and all that sort of thing. So the more videos that there are online, the better. And when you're watching a video that's a review of a product, you shouldn't necessarily just be thinking, what is this YouTuber telling me? The chances are, if a YouTuber's been given a piece of equipment for free, there's going to be some level of unconscious bias where you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I owe the manufacturer positive comments. I'd like to think that myself, I don't do that too much, and that I certainly give you a balanced overview, and I will always tell you the good and bad things, but at some level, everybody is going to be thinking to some point, you know what, I need to be positive because I've been given this piece of equipment. Now, that is the reason most YouTubers don't take bad equipment, because you would be disingenuous, and I think you'd feel dishonest if you're giving a review of a product saying it's great when actually it's rubbish. And I don't see much of that at all myself in our hobby. But the point is, the more the better. So if you're looking for a video on a certain product, even if you don't listen to what that YouTuber is saying, you get a chance to look around the entire product, see what you get in the box, see how long the cables are, which is really important, all sorts of practical stuff like that. Maybe sometimes you'll get to see how easy it is to take something apart, put it back together, and all those sorts of things. And what I like to do on my videos, I always give my opinion. I say the good things, I say the bad things, but really the purpose of it is, you can listen to me if you want, but I want you to be able to see what the product is like and have a proper look around it so you know what you're getting. Otherwise, you're going in blind, opening a box from a shop and hoping that it will be something that you're looking for. And that segues nicely into what I wanted to talk about with bulk reef supply. Now, there seems to be a bit of a perception that BRS is kind of intending to take over the world. I think it's a private equity group that has merged with BRS or is heavily invested in BRS and has recently taken over Ecotech Marine as well, and I think Innovative Marine. And there's kind of this fear that it's becoming this unstoppable monster, that they're going to perhaps put prices up or use cheaper equipment to make the products, and maybe it'll also be a closed shop and there's no competition because everything's under one roof. Now, I think those are actually legitimate concerns, and I understand why people would think that. Now, I didn't study business or economics, so I don't really know enough to opine properly about this, but I'll just give you kind of my thoughts on the scenario. Now, I've said probably 100 times on this channel that BRS doesn't strike me as that kind of company. Ryan himself has said before that he couldn't do it. If you were asking him to be dishonest and sell something that he doesn't believe in, he would rather walk away than do it. He wouldn't be able to live with himself. So the fact that BRS is merging with other companies and taking over Neptune, all these sorts of things, doesn't strike me as a bad thing. There aren't many big companies in this hobby. It's a very small hobby, and it's great that companies like Philips are bringing out a light, or have brought out a light for a hobby, which is fantastic. But most of the companies are actually pretty small, and the bigger the companies, as far as I'm concerned, the better, because there'll be more investment and more scope for research, particularly when it's someone like Ryan from BRS involved, who's a hobbyist at heart and has all sorts of ideas about things that we could make better. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a good thing. But like I say, I don't really know much about the ins and outs of it, and I can't give you a proper educated opinion on what might happen and the pros and cons. But the last thing I wanted to talk about with BRS as well is the kind of the content that they're putting out at the moment. So now, I am a YouTube addict, okay? I love watching it. It's not just making videos for me. I watch videos all the time from all sorts of channels. Recently though, I found myself watching fewer of the BRS TV videos, and actually I've unsubscribed to the channel that used to be Marine Depot. On that channel, I believe you have Matthew, who was from My First Fish Tank, you have Thomas, who does the product reviews, and I believe Jen as well is on that channel. Now, I've not unsubscribed for out of spite or saying that it's a bad channel. It's just that I've found personally that there's videos from those three. There's also videos from Ryan, from Randy, from Ryan and Randy, and it's just too much for me. So I don't watch them all the time. But what I do find is that I now watch the videos with Ryan and Randy in particular, because those are my favourite. However, this goes back to a point I made earlier. So in my opinion, it's not a bad thing. Whilst I've unsubscribed to those videos, that's really just because I don't have enough hours in the day to watch them all. But if you wanted to buy a product, if you wanted to buy, say, a bubble maker skimmer, if you go online and Google it, you're not going to find an awful lot. If you crack it into YouTube, bang, you will find Thomas showing you around the product, all the things that you don't know unless you actually look at it yourself. You'll see it next to a tank and a sump, so you can get a proper idea of how tall it is and how wide it is, all those sorts of things, and he will show you around everything you need to know. Now, of course, ultimately those videos are made by a company that sells the equipment, so the intention behind them is to sell you things, but it's also to tell you about it. Now, I don't think you should be watching those videos thinking, right, I need an independent, completely 100% honest opinion as to whether I should buy it. You should be thinking, is this the right piece of equipment for me? Tell me what you know about it, and I'll bear that in mind when I'm making my decision. It also helps that Thomas is a pretty entertaining character, and actually you can find yourself watching those videos and having fun anyway. So if you are concerned that you think BRS is taking over the world and becoming this big evil conglomerate, it doesn't seem to be the case to me. And the more content they can put out, the better. In fact, the other two I mentioned, Jen and Matthew, Jen does really good, fast to the point videos. If you like, some people love the 30, 45 minute long videos that go into a load of detail, myself included, but other people like the short punchy videos. She does those, they're really good, to the point, and again, she's quite an engaging watch. And Matthew from My First Fish Tank, who now does the beginner stuff on bulk reef supply, I've been watching his channel for, I don't know, 6 months or so. I really like him. It's just kind of vlog style stuff. It's a bit different from what you get elsewhere, and it's again really entertaining. And if you're a beginner, he shows you kind of the journey of setting up new tanks, it seems, every 5 minutes. So in summary then, I wanted to say first off, well done to Moki for starting the conversation about the role YouTubers play in pushing equipment that's quite expensive and what we can do to change that. And on the other side, with the BRS expansion and the private equity group taking over other companies, personally I see that as a good thing for a small hobby to have big companies making investments. Now look, those are just my thoughts though, and I'm sure you'll all have comments on it, so let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and in particular if you think there are things that YouTubers can do to make things better and to push cheaper products, or maybe things that you think we're doing that are wrong when we're doing reviews on more expensive products. let me know in the comment section below. I'll read as many of the comments as I can do, and I will take on board things you say, and I can guarantee you other YouTubers will watch this video as well and will read the comments. Now, I wanted to do this video as kind of a no filter freestyle video without a script, so you can see exactly what I have to say about the situation and so I can go into a bit more detail. So if you stuck around to the end, well done to you. Go and get yourself a cup of tea to reward yourself. And if you enjoyed the video, of course, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for next week. And until next time, happy reefing.